Good evening everyone, we're going to be starting the planning meeting now. Just before we start, I do have a few points I would like to go through. We do have the PA system, so hopefully you can hear me at the back. I think because you haven't got a very full audience tonight, there shouldn't be any problems hearing. Please ensure your mobile phones are either off or on silent, and there is no fire drill planned tonight. The proceedings are filmed and will be available on the WBC website within the next couple of days. You will see that from the camera position that the committee members, council officers and registered speakers will normally be recorded, but speakers may ask not to be filmed, but their comments will be audio recorded. So when you do come up, if you don't want to be filmed, please make us aware. The planning committee is made up of 9 elected members, and these are the people sitting here. And I'm actually going to ask them to introduce themselves this evening by telling us their name and which ward that they represent, so the members of the public can see that we do represent the whole of Wokingham Borough. Philip, would you like to start?
Here, Philip Holsworth, representing Winnersh.
Bill Soane, representing Loddon, which is Woodley.
Rochelle Shepherd-Debay, representing Winnersh.
Malcolm Richards, representing Norris.
Chris Singleton, Enbrook, and Vice Chair.
I'm Tim Holton of Auckland, which is in Lower Early. John?
I'm John Kaiser and I'm Bath.
Chris Barring, Evandon's ward in Woking. Wayne Smith, Hurst.
Thank you. We are supported and advised by a variety of professional council officers. And I'm going to have a little change as well tonight by asking the officers to say who they are and what their job function is, just in case the job title doesn't actually explain it.
Right, my name is Mary Severin, I'm the Borough Solicitor and the Deputy Monitoring Officer, and I'm here to give legal advice to the Planning Committee members.
Madeleine Shopland, Democratic Services, and I'm here to take the notes.
Mark Cupid, Delivery Programme Director, and that means I'm responsible for delivery of all the strategic sites, the collection of all the Section 106 and the Community Infrastructure Levy. And my job here tonight is to act as lead planner, so I'm here to advise the Planning Committee and to support Tim as Chair.
I'm Chris Easton, I'm the Service Manager of Highways and I'm here to assist in any matters that arise from tonight's agenda.
Thank you. The planning officers presenting the applications are sitting over there, and each time they come up they'll be introducing themselves. Okay. Right, this is a quasi-judicial committee with formal set procedures and conduct. Firstly, the planning officer will present each application. Then I will call in turn only those who are pre-registered to speak. Please come forward to the table. The microphone is controlled by the grey button on the base. The time limit of 3 minutes of each category of speaker will be strictly enforced. So please ensure you get your key points across within your allotted time. Members of the committee are interested in the quality of what you have to say, not how long you speak. I emphasise that only those who are pre-registered to speak may speak, and that includes town or parish councillors, agents, applicants, objectors or supporters. And they will not be allowed to interrupt the meeting. Following the planning officer's presentation and the comments of registered speakers, the planning committee members will consider, question and seek clarification of the application and hopefully reach a decision which may or may not agree with the planning officer's recommendation. Finally, a reminder, the LPA role is to determine any valid planning application using local and national planning policy. Our role is not to suggest alterations to the schemes, whether they are a good idea or indeed needed, whether they are too costly or whether they are alternative uses. So thanks very much, and we'll move on to the agenda. First item on the agenda is apologies, but there are none because all of the committee are here. Minutes of the previous meeting, are there any corrections to that? Okay, so could you have hands to approve them? Thank you. Does anyone need to declare an interest? No? Thank you. Are there any applications to be deferred or withdrawn?
No, Chairman.
Okay. Right, that brings us on to item 5, which is the Hatchgate Farm application. This is major development, and there are 3 applications here. We're going to discuss all 3 at once, but we will be doing separate votes for each of them. I'll hand over to the case officer then, Graham, to take us through it.
Thank you, Chairman. So as the Chairman said, 3 applications on the same site, and I'll present them as one item. The site is in designated countryside on Hatchgate Farm in Hurst. The cattle yard area itself is located relatively central in the farm and between Davis Street, Dunt Lane and Lines Road. A previous application, F2015-1235, granted permission for the establishment of a cattle yard and the 2 buildings outlined in red, a workshop and 1 cattle shed. It also gave indicative locations of 3 further cattle sheds, which are outlined in blue. The current applications offer the 3 further cattle sheds, as outlined in blue. The main difference from the indicative locations is that cattle shed 4 has been moved further south, resulting in the yard being elongated. This means in total there would be 5 new buildings on the site as a result of all 4 planning permissions. This is the view looking eastwards across the farm, where you can see rooftops set against the backdrop of a tree line. There's an existing path on the site adjacent to some of the existing structures and that part of the farm. This is the view looking southwards across the farm. And this is looking west at the edge of the site with a track leading to Dunt Lane, and you can see an oak tree on the left-hand side of the picture. This is then looking northeast across the farm towards Davis Street. The principle of the proposal has been established by the previous application. For clarification, although the site is within designated countryside, it would contribute to diverse and sustainable rural enterprises, and therefore would be acceptable in terms of policy CP11 of the core strategy. The previous application also included an agricultural report to support the economic stability and continuation of the agricultural use of the site. The area is rural in character and appearance, with views to farm buildings and dwellings set against a backdrop of wooded areas. The cattle sheds are large buildings, but will be typical agricultural buildings, and therefore would not be out of keeping with the area. In addition, landscaping will also help to integrate the sheds into the area. The green line shows the hedgerow area that was agreed as a result of the previous application. This has been increased from a double to a triple row of planting. The red line indicates the re-establishment of a former hedgerow and additional trees to mitigate the impact on views from the south. As a result of these, the tree and landscape officer is satisfied the proposal would not harm the landscape character. The previous application agreed a new pond to take the water runoff from the new buildings. This is an acceptable SUD solution which also has ecological enhancements. All other issues are controlled through the conditions as per the agenda, and therefore all 3 applications are recommended for conditional approval. There are no further updates since the agenda was printed. Thank you, Chairman.
Right, thank you. There are no speakers registered for this one, but we do have a board councillor, so I'll let Wayne go first.
Thank you, Chairman. As I said back in September, I'm encouraged by further farming in our rural parish of Hurst, so I have no comments.
Are there any other members wishing to speak, clarification or anything? None at all? Right. Well, we'll go straight to the vote then if there's nothing else. We are doing this in 3 goes. So the first one then is application number 160516. So all those in favour? So that's unanimous. Then application 160517. All those in favour? It's unanimous. And lastly 160518. All those in favour? Thank you very much. It's unanimous again. Right. Next application then, number 6, which is the Enbrook School on page 53. As I say this is a full plan application for the proposed erection of a new two-storey building to replace the existing single-storey temporary accommodation unit. And I'll hand over now to the case officer. Oh, we'll just add, we did go on a site visit for this.
Thank you, Chairman. As already described, this is a full application for the erection of a two-storey classroom building to replace the existing single-storey classrooms which are temporary accommodation. The site is located on the northwest corner of Enbrook School, and that's where the temporary single-storey classroom units are located. This is indicated by the red outlines. Here's some existing photos of the application site. So picture 1 shows the view towards the existing single-storey units with the houses of village close to the rear. It also shows the mound. Photo 2 is facing away across the hard standing area to the front. And photos 3 and 4 show the existing two-storey classroom blocks within Enbrook. The proposed building would be 2 storeys in height and would consist of brick predominantly to the lower ground and to the upper floor cladding that would relate to the existing buildings on the site. The proposal would involve cutting into the raised bank so that the ground level of the building would be in line with that of the hard standing to its front. This also reduces the height of the building. Supporting the ground around the back of the building is a retaining wall. The overall height of the building would be roughly in line with the eaves of the dwellings of village close. Concerns were raised with regard to the proposal's impact upon residential amenity. The proposed block would be located close to the residential dwellings of village close and also at Enbrook Gate. Whilst the Our Borough Design Guide does not include guidance for schools in terms of separation distances, the proposal would roughly accord with the guidance for residential dwellings. In summary, the proposal would not increase student or staff numbers. It's a straight replacement of classroom facilities. It replaces 2 single-storey blocks with a modern 2-storey classroom facility and generally comply with separation distances within the Borough Design Guide. In terms of members' updates, since the publication of the committee item, we have 5 new objections. Essentially, these are concerned with the impact on residential amenity to the residents of village close. We have amended plans, which are also in members' update. This includes new optical glazed windows on the upper floor and has corrected the position of the flank elevation 9 village close. The design access statement has been amended regarding the community use of the proposed building, so that the current community use of the existing blocks would be the same. The community use of a proposed block would be the same as that of existing. Condition 1 has been amended to take into account the revised plans. There is a new condition for optical glazing. And condition 4 for the construction method statement has been amended to link with the operation of the school during construction.
Thank you very much. We have two speakers registered for this. We've got Ian Milne and Russell Bond. I'd ask Ian to come to the table first.
Thank you, Chairman and committee members. I guess with that recent update, some of my points may have changed, but I'm still going to go ahead and discuss them. So my name's Ian Milne, I'm from 12 Village Close. I'm here to object to the proposed development. In reviewing the document that's been produced by planning, I can see there's no responses from public or residents or owners mentioned, but I can see now that that's up there with the 5 objections. So I hope we've had a chance to review those. An attempt has been made to reduce the height of the building by sinking it into the ground and reducing its height in relation to the houses in Village Close. But the 2-storey development is still very large, overbearing and intrusive. It's 3 metres higher than the existing units, too close to the boundary and houses for something of this scale. The existing buildings of a similar height, mass and scale are well away from the homes in the centre of the school development. The document itself states the mass block would present a large new feature. Totally agree. Too overbearing and too close to the boundary, representing an unneighbourly form of development. One of the items of concern is the digging out, that it doesn't undermine the surface water tank and pumping station in Village Close that exists between number 9 and number 10, right on the boundary. The document only makes mention of the possible impact to number 9 Village Close. The building also goes across number 10. The site will also impact all those in Village Close along the boundary, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15. Not only will the proposed building have an impact, but the removal of the existing single-storey buildings will also. This area will be grassed over and result in noise and disturbance, increased noise and disturbance. Loss of privacy will result from the removal of the single-storey buildings, as the new 2-storey existing building behind will be revealed. There's no provision for obscured glass into the first floor of the existing buildings as is planned for the new building. There's no provision for mature tree screening that needs to be planted across the entire boundary covered by the proposed building and the area removed and the area covered by the removed single-storey buildings. There are many comments that the proposed building would not result in any additional pupils and staff numbers. This may be true, but the design and access statement makes mention that the building will provide a discrete block which will be operated independently and can expand community use. This means more noise and disturbance throughout the year.
So you've had your 3 minutes, so if you could finish up, please.
Yeah, I've just got 1 sentence. Thank you for your time.
Russell Bond, would you like to come forward?
It's much easier talking to young children than it is probably talking to you lot, so my apologies if I seem nervous. I joined the school in September as a deputy head, and I currently sit here as the acting head because we're sort of in transition, so just to clear up that confusion. It's a fantastic school. It is a real school that's at the heart of community and where it works. And just to sort of answer the question about the use of the community and them coming in, we have consistently let our facilities out to the general public, and that will be the way in which we'll work going forward with the same block and exactly the same use as we had before, and there'll be no change in that. The discrete block, yes, as the mass block is at the moment, is lovely because it means you can lock up as you leave and is great for that sort of disabled access. But there is no real change, or is no change in what we're proposing to do in terms of lettings, etc. We still have summer schools that run, and they do run currently already. But get back to the nub of the matter. The maths block at the moment that we have is not really fit for purpose. I'm a mathematician, so I kind of sit here with somebody who uses that block as well. It's freezing cold in the winter. to the point where we have to use electric heaters to get it up to a point where it's actually workable for students to work in, and they are not efficient, and nor do they often work. And we get to the point where if we try and plug too many heaters in, the main switch will go, and it's just not really what the children deserve. And in the summer, it's too hot. So you go from one extreme to the other. Now, even in those conditions, the maths department have been outstanding and have produced some of the best results that I've ever seen from any department. And I know, coming from Surrey, that people would bite your hands off to take the maths department they have there off your hands. And I think the block that's proposed, and we've sat down and gone through many different proposals when the planning process, is one that actually is fit for purpose and is one that fits the school and fits the site the best that we possibly can. And whatever happens, I'd love to work with the local community and the people behind it to make sure that we kind of always work with them to make sure that what we do doesn't impinge on their lives and anything else, because go back to what we do as a school is at the heart of the community of Enbrook, and we want to make sure that we are working with everybody to be the best possible school that we can be. I know that with the new head coming in June, we will certainly be reaching out to the community and working with the local primary schools, etc. But the maths block, I think, in the way it's set out, isn't to increase numbers, isn't to increase staff, but just to take some buildings that have been there since 1999 that were meant to be there for 5 years and actually make them fit for purpose and give the students the quality classrooms that they deserve to be taught in by the quality teachers they already have. That's me.
Right, thank you. Can I just a bit of clarification for a couple of points I heard earlier about the closeness to the boundary, the screening that's proposed, and I'd say there's a new one on me about the pump station being undermined at 9 and 10. If I could have some comment on that before I come to members.
So we start with screening. There is a condition for boundary treatment to increase the screening along the boundary as a result of removal of the units. There isn't, speaking to our tree landscape entity, there isn't space there to plant substantial trees, but so the boundary treatment would address some of the issues, the exposure as a result of the removal of the blocks. In terms of the distances between the block and the boundary, there's a diagram there with some distances on. So that's number 10. So there's a distance of 10 metres between the block and the boundary, and a distance of 24 metres between the rear elevation of the proposed school block and the rear elevation of the dwelling. This is a new members update, but there's new obscure glazing on this corner as well, on the upper floor. And here, this is number 9. So between the block and the boundary with number 9 is a distance of 10 metres, or a distance of 11 metres between the rear elevation of the block and the side elevation of number 9. To the north, between the side elevation of the new school block and the boundary, it's at least 14 metres. And between this side of the school block and the rear of the dwellings here, it's around 30 metres.
So it's in excess of what we would normally expect.
Yeah.
And we just have a comment then on that pumping station road?
Oh yes, so the pumping station is located around here. Proposal that comes away from into the mound here, and it's held back by a retaining wall. The purpose of that retaining wall is to hold back the ground and stock to avoid any slippage.
Okay, thank you. Right. Okay, we do have a board member, which is Chris, so right, to you.
Thank you, Tim. Right, I had raised a number of questions with officers previously, and a number of detailed things they have been covered, but there are a couple of things on which I'd like clarification. The first is the question of safety for the students, and the second is actually a point which Ian Milne raised, is the question about the water table. If I can take the safety issue first, Knowing the layout of Enbrook School, it's clearly it's paramount in terms of safety for the students there. I wonder whether you can just give some reassurance in terms of the construction management plan, how that will address that issue.
Thank you. There is a condition 18 for construction management plan. This has now been amended to quite clearly state that it should take into account during the phasing of development, the construction and delivery to coordinate with the school opening, closing and break times as to not result in any conflict with pupils.
Fine, thank you. Now, on the question of the groundwater, what I'm concerned there is that the digging out, we're caught between two extremes here. If we don't dig out, then it's going to be higher and it's going to be more intrusive for the dwellings behind. If we do dig out, I'm concerned about what will happen to the water table. Now, with that amount of reduction, I'm concerned that will the water table actually go down to the level where the footings might be undermined through the water going up? I'm thinking, say, if it was clay underneath, would that actually cause a problem? Looking really for some reassurance there in terms of undermining footings, but also from the point of view of the existing green vegetation there, that we wouldn't want to be losing that mature green area.
I think I'll pick that one up. In terms of the construction, it's very difficult to go into the detail. The applicant isn't required to demonstrate details in terms of footings and stuff for the plan application. But in terms of giving you some levels to understand, the Enbrook itself actually sits on the embankment of the Enbrook is at 43.3 in terms of a level, and in terms of the lowest point of this building, before the footings, you're at 45.2. So basically there's almost 2 metres difference between the bottom of the building before you get to the embankment where the Enbrook is. So there's the water table wouldn't be coming up the hill as such. So the water table basically is down at the river level, and therefore you've got 2 metres clearance within that distance. And the distance between the edge of the building and the river itself is 160 metres. Therefore, 160, with a mathematician in the room, but we're kind of running at 1 in 80 in terms of as a gradient. And your standard footpath is typically 1 in 40, so you're talking double the fall on the footpath to 1 in 80, which is very shallow to do for cutting out of an existing embankment, an existing bund. So I think in terms of what has been presented, we're happy with the question you've raised that there is no impact of this upon the water table.
This is getting into an area where I obviously don't have the expertise, but I'd just be concerned that there's a steady permeation of water down that slope, and whether the water level is higher. And I just wonder, for the peace of mind, whether, for the sake of putting down a couple of small boreholes just to see where the water level is that the sort of thing that might be considered? No?
Not as part of a planning application, no. The building regulations for the application would deal with any technical matters like that. But I think what you've heard is that Chris has spent quite a lot of time buffing up on this particular matter to answer your particular point. But in reality, it's not a planning matter. It's something we would technically be dealt with. But I understand there may be residents who are concerned about it.
I would just add, I appreciate the effort made, Chris. Thank you.
Okay, Malcolm and then Rochelle.
Thank you. Just 2 points, Chairman. The first one is we've heard talk that they're going to do this sort of safely while the students are there. When is the project expected the main project expected to happen? Is it during school holidays, July, August, or during term time?
That's not clear, but it will be set out in the construction management plan, particularly with the addition of the logistics of the phasing in order to minimise construction, but that's not clear at the moment.
Okay. Second question is, Mr. Mills said that although the building is being cut into a slope, it's still higher than the local houses. However, page 61, paragraph 19, says that the ridge height of the dwellings, the rest of the school is lower than the ridge height of the dwellings. Is that right? Which?
So I'm just showing a slide here. That's the ridge line of the houses to the back. to ridge line there as well. The land here at the back is higher than the land here, obviously partly because of the ground's been lowered. But by lowering the building, it reduces the height of it. So yeah, that's the ridge line there.
So it's not higher than the houses then?
No.
Good. Thank you.
Right, Michelle?
A couple of questions. Construction traffic. Since construction traffic for the northern SDL is coming up Old Forest Road, and a lot of that's going to be one way again, making sure that Malcolm doesn't have the two trucks hitting each other on that end, the other end. Is construction traffic management plan in effect for this? Where are the workers going to be parking who are actually putting up this building so as not to disaccommodate the local residents when they want to park their cars someplace around the area? And lastly, I have some safety questions. There's a close of a walking route for Enbrook School by Bovis from Matthews Green Development, stopping Ashton students from walking down safely through a nice green area. And I was wondering if this was going to be open in enough time when this new park starts working. You start working on this new school park.
In terms of construction traffic, that would be dealt with under the construction management plan. In terms of the vehicle movements and deliveries, etc. It would also cover the parking of the contractors and other staff working on the site. And so could you repeat the last question about the movement of pupils?
Pupils, there is a green area that runs from about Tatley Road all the way over to Ashton Road, just before the Enbrook crossing, just before the bridge, just where the NPR is going to come out. And there's a green area there that students from Ashton walk down to go to the school, and it's presently being closed by Bovis to work on a path there, but we just want to know when the path is going to be finished. And on the construction management plan, is it going to be coordinated with Matthews Green so we don't wind up with two sets of trucks coming up at the same time and winding up residents having more problems? And lastly, will this allow for enough of the student population that's going to be in Matthews Green and in the northern SDL? Because Arborfield won't be open in time, and you're saying that you're only going to have 1,100 students. I'm just wondering where you're going to stack the rest of the students if Arborfield isn't open enough time.
Michelle, that's not a question for this application.
Okay. All right.
I think, just the key bit there, I think, for me to pick up on was the link that you're talking about through from Tatley Road down through to the school. The works for that, as you'll be aware, the planning committee have dealt with the application there for the Sang and obviously the Matthews Green development. The works there are to deliver the green link through from the new development up to the Sang, which obviously needs to be in place by the first occupation. So there's new bridges and stuff are going in through that green link, and they're in the process of completing those and handing them back. So by the time this obviously comes forward, that link will be well open.
That's what I was concerned about, so they wouldn't be in two places for them getting stuck and then having to go through construction as well.
No, that should be fine. But in terms of construction traffic, just picking up on what Katie's mentioned, the application will need to come into discharge that condition, and we'll review that at that time. And obviously we're not understanding the phasing yet, but it's likely that typically schools build during summer holiday periods, which will obviously enable more of the land on the car parks to be available for storage and traffic, etc.
I was just worried that you were just to coordinate the traffic though for all of the construction vehicles coming in there and deliveries, so it wouldn't cause any more problems on Old Forest Road and Tatley Road than it already would.
Yeah, I think we're probably straying off slightly, but I think in terms of Old Forest Road, we haven't really had any problems with there. There have been a few around Enbrook recently, but that's due to the fact that Twyford Road's currently closed while they put the new roundabout. That should be open in about a week to two. When that's open, it's intended that the majority of the construction traffic would transfer back to Tatley Road, back to Twyford Road, and then the entrance currently on Tatley Road will then be for smaller construction vans and the workers themselves to obviously come in and park. So it's a moving element at the moment that obviously we are managing with them.
Is anybody else indicating to speak? No. Okay. Well, we have a clear recommendation then on page 53 with the accompanying conditions plus the extra one which is on the members' update. So could I have a show of hands then please for all those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Next item then is item 7, which is the land at the Manor. This is a reserve matters application. Sorry?
Thank you, Chairman. This application is for land at Manor for the Wokingham School in Shinfield. The applicant is the University of Reading. The proposal is for a reserve matters application for a sports pavilion and associated vehicle parking, public open space, including a cricket pitch and informal open space, landscaping and associated works. The principle of development is established under the outline planning application, which was approved in 2013. And this established the land use for the site and access to the site. This is an aerial photograph of the site with the application site shown outlined in red. The site is located to the south of Brookers Hill and to the west of Hollow Lane, towards the north of Shinfield. There is residential development to the south of the site, which is, has been approved under the outline plan application, which is part of the Manor site for 126 units, and reserve matters application has almost been approved for those units. This is a site layout showing the access into the site. The access is from an existing access point to the site. The pavilion building will be located to the north of the site with parking adjacent to this. The cricket pitch has been designed to accommodate a 9-pitch square in the centre. Informal public open space surrounding the cricket pitch will be landscaped, and existing significant landscaping would be retained on the edges of the site. The landscape officer has assessed the application and has raised no objections to the proposal. The development is in accordance with approved parameters and land use of the site, including building heights. This slide shows the pavilion building itself. It's a low profile building which is considered to be well designed for the use it is intended. Being low profile, it will have a limited impact on the landscape, and it includes canopies and a glazed top room to accommodate players and spectators. In terms of the internal layout of the pavilion, this slide shows the internal layout. There's a club room at the centre. This is considered to be a functional layout for the intended use, and the layout also means that areas can be closed off if another community use would wanted to use the building at another time. The recommendation is to approve the reserve matters subject to the conditions set out in the committee report and members' update. It's just important to note as well that the timing of the delivery of this is unsure, as it's not required for the South Enfield strategic development location. In terms of the members' update, there's a slight clarification on page 81. Sport England requests a condition for the specification of the cricket pitch. Although it's acknowledged, a condition is attached to the outline planning consent in respect to this, and it's not necessary to duplicate it for a reserve matters application. Informative 3 refers to this as shown on page 78, and an additional condition in terms of hours of operation for the use of the building. Thank you, Chairman.
Right, we don't have any speakers registered. Is anybody wishing to speak on this one? Michelle?
Yeah. I'm just wondering about the restrictions on the use of the pavilion for social events. The reason I say this is that based on our own experience in Winnish with a cricket club that has been continually pushing the edge of trying to use it more often than they originally agreed to. And I'd like to make sure that we have some restrictions there, that they can only use it so many days per year as a social event.
So the room is fairly small. I will just ask the officer to pass a comment on that.
Such condition can be imposed, but as I say, the room is quite small. It's not going to be used, I don't think, that widely amongst the community. So I think it depends whether or not it's considered that condition would be reasonable for the size of the room. The hours of operation are also sort of governing the times, and also licensing would also have to be included as well.
It's just an experience that the local cricket club has been taking the mick on a regular basis and doing things that they didn't agree they were going to do, and they're pushing the local residents to distraction. So I would like to make sure that we have some restrictions on it at least, or suggest that they have it where the local residents will agree, as a condition possibly was a planning note. It may be a small room, but they're still going to use it, and they'll annoy the heck out of the new residents there by having parties, as exampled by the present cricket club in Winner.
Mark, would you like to comment?
Well, it's like
the speaker, please.
Yeah, it's 7 metres by 4 metres, so it's not much bigger than a car parking space. So I hear what you say about its potential to be irritating to neighbours, but I think they would probably outnumber the people using it if they went over to complain about the noise.
Yes, but it's just trying to prevent a problem from happening in the future. It's trying to future-proof it against something that will annoy the neighbours. Just asking them to restrict the hours to a reasonable time that the neighbours will agree to.
It is clearly an issue, but I think it's a question of proportionality, and I think you can rest assured actually it's more a club room where people had teas than it is where they'll do a wedding.
Well, that's what they said at the Borough of Winner also.
Anybody else wanting to speak? No? Okay. Well, again, we've got a clear recommendation for approval then on page 76 with a set of conditions plus the additional one in the members' update. So all those in favour, please show. That is unanimous. Thank you. Item 8 then is St Crispin School on Manor Road, and this is a full planning application for the erection of a 2-storey 6-form block, the creation of a new staff parking area via Rances Lane, alterations to the existing car park, and provisions for a new multi-use games area, and the use of the existing 6-form as a new ASD unit involving the erection of 2 canopies and the provision of a drop-off area. And again, this was an application that we had a site visit on Friday. To you.
Thank you, Chairman. As just stated, this application is for an erection of a 2-storey 6-form block, the creation of a new staff parking area by Rances Lane, alterations to the existing car park by London Road, provisions of a new MUGA, multi-use games area, and use of the existing 6-form as a new ASD centre, autistic spectrum disorder unit, involving erection of 2 canopies and provision of drop-off area. The application site is within St Crispin's. St Crispin's includes a listed building of which the proposal will be located within. The building is listed for its early demonstration of the way prefabrication techniques can be applied to multi-storey buildings. The proposed 6-form would be, as outlined in red, would be located to the southwest of the existing science block. The design of the building has been carefully considered to reflect the existing built forms on the site, including the Grade 2 listed building. It is a modern interpretation of the modular external appearance of the existing buildings, including a flat roof, grid-based facade clad in grey and white panels, and the windows in a similar style to those used in original dwelling buildings. So this is the science block. That's the Grade 2 listed building. So these is the existing single-storey block. The ASD centre will be located within the existing sixth form as outlined in red. The first photo here is looking towards the existing sixth form, and that's an image of the front. The only external works to the ASD centre, or the former sixth form, would be the erection of canopies to the front and its rear. So one of the canopies would be located here. The ASD centre would include a dedicated drop-off area for its pupils. This would be managed by the school, opening and closing the gates for students to be dropped off and picked up. Vehicles would be specialist vehicles set by the school and not for parents, etc. to use. During the day, the space would remain as play space. The proposed MUGA, or multi-use games area, is located to the south of the site, next to the existing sports pitches. A similar MUGA was proposed or approved as part of the science block application. And this is an image that was requested showing location of the proposed MUGA in relation to the residential dwellings. So there's the plot. The proposal would result in an increase in pupil and staff numbers. And the increase of students for the sixth form is plus 80. And there are currently no ASD students, 26. And there would be an additional 26 members of staff, 10 for the sixth form and 16 for the ASD centre. The proposal will accommodate new parking for the staff, for the new staff, and a short-border parking provision for the existing staff. No parking is provided for the ASD students, as they will be under 17 and will be taken in by a specialist taxi or other vehicle. The proposal doesn't provide parking provision for sixth form students. Whilst this is contrary to the council's parking standards, this is the potential harm is mitigated by the school's management of the proposal and unique circumstances of this site and case. It is against the school's policy to provide sixth form parking. The existing pupils, which are sixth form pupils, which are 196, there are no parking spaces for those. The school would manage the sixth form students and discourage them from taking a car in via their code of conduct in this existing situation and through a new travel plan. This was located in a highly sustainable location along excellent bus routes and train and cycling routes. The proposal includes a new staff parking area. It is located to the side and rear of the existing science block and will be accessed by Francis Lane. This would provide 27 parking spaces and would be for staff only and could only be accessed by staff by foot, vehicle or bike and would be controlled by a key fob. staff will be allocated to this car park. The existing London Road car park would be altered so that, whilst not increasing in its size, would be reorganised to provide additional parking provision within it. And the parking provision for Westmead would be altered, and this is subject for further details via condition. Concerns were raised regarding the impact of additional vehicles from the residents of Chedwell Close. Acoustic screening is opposed along this boundary, and issues of light pollution and fumes would be limited due to the movement of staff mainly to access the site in the morning and leaving that in the day. Acoustic screening is also fencing is also proposed to the boundary of the craft to mitigate any noise from the new logo. The phasing of the development is fairly complicated, but in short, it is designed to minimise disruption and prioritising the ASD centre. Further details of the phasing and of the construction as well is subject to condition. And in short, the first phase would facilitate the ASD centre. This would require building half of the sixth form, moving the students out of the former sixth form, and providing and refurbishing and installing the canopies to the ASD centre. The main London Road car park will be refurbished to provide the additional spaces for the ASD staff. And the second phase would involve building the second half of the sixth form and providing the new parking facilities via master stations, including the gates, etc. The final phase would be to install a Luga. For clarity, we're building half of the sixth form. The western phase would look identical to that of if the phase 2 was completed. In summary, the new sixth form building would proposal for the new sixth form building, which would result in staff and pupils. There'll be a new staff parking area. Whilst proposals contrary to the council parking standards, on balance, this would not result in harm because the way the proposal will be managed by the school and the particular context of the site. It would provide a new ASD centre. It would rationalise the existing parking area and would provide a reverse similar to that through the science block application. In terms of the members' update, a new objection has been received. Two conditions have been altered. Condition 17 for hours of illumination has been altered to make the permitted hours of illumination clearer. Condition 18, construction management plan, has also been amended to include logistics of the phasing of the build with the operation of the school. In terms of clarifications, at the end of the section in the report regarding representations, a paragraph number has been amended and an additional paragraph has been included regarding issues of light pollution and exhaust pollution. And that result of the noise assessment has been received. With regards to NUGA, it advises that proposal will have a marginal effect on existing noise levels and appropriate mitigation measures should be incorporated to reduce the noise impact and kept minimal, and this is addressed by the acoustic fencing along the boundary of the block.
Thank you very much. We have 2 speakers registered. That's Mr. and Mrs. Kennett. You have 3 minutes between you. You can divide it how you wish.
I've actually sent some slides. Is there any way I can access them and speak at the same time? So thank you very much to the committee for allowing me to speak about this proposal. The next slide, please. So we live in number 3 Chetwood Close, and we are closest to the science block and the new car park development. Next slide, please. So the history of the site would seem to be germane to our objection to the current proposal. We were here in 2011 when the science block was erected. This is a very large building, necessitated by the ventilation required from the laboratories, and it wholly overlooks our property. And whilst we weren't able to persuade the committee on that occasion to re-site the science block in any shape or form, they did take mercy on us and grant us a screen of trees to block out the overlooking aspect of this imposing building. Next slide, please. So this is the current building looking from our bedroom window. So you see the top floor looks straight in towards us, and it looks right down over our garden. And a screen of trees is seen. The exact place is those green dots there, is actually where those trees are currently sited. And as you can see, they are down to be scrubbed up if this car park development goes ahead. And this will destroy the condition upon which the science block was granted permission to be built in the previous planning meeting. So we would therefore ask that some provision be made for replacing this screen and indeed enhancing it, given that we're now faced with the car park as well as the science block and all the bother that this is going to cause us since we live so close to it. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So there are obviously some additional issues which I think may be partly remedied by the statement from the council today about putting in fencing which will mitigate some of the noise. We thank you for that. Nevertheless, there's also fumes, and it's coming and going during the weekends would be a considerable annoyance, I think, to us to enjoy our garden. We would hope that this could be limited in some way. And the staff will obviously want to use it for supporting extramural activities, so I can anticipate that there will be comings and goings at all times. Next slide, please. And this further illustrates why there's need for screening. These are the lightings currently on the science block, which presumably will also be used to illuminate the car park since there's no further provision made. And these are unfocused lights, don't face downwards in any shape or form. And generally speaking, most of the classroom lights are indeed left on throughout the night or for large parts of the night and shine straight at us. So we really need this screening. And we'd be very much obliged if the help to replace what they're proposing to destroy. Well, obviously the construction disturbance, and if we do keep it out from our back fence, would be much obliged.
Is that it?
Yes, that's
it.
it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Will you just turn the mic off? Right. Could I have some comment about? I thought it was an interesting one about it was conditioned for the trees, and now we're removing them. Can we do something about strengthening the boundary, please?
Hi. Well, the application for the science book did include screening on the boundary, which I read to be along the boundary here. So we've got a condition for acoustic screening there. I mean, the conditions we impose need to be necessary and reasonable, as there'll be screening with the science block, but I guess it's the height, not the height which is more the issue. which is asking for, because the acoustic screen would obviously then the noise levels and also have to go some way of reducing views because of the scale of it.
Would it be reasonable though to ask for to have some extra screening by the acoustic fence? I'm thinking the fence is in the region of 2 metres,
yeah.
So we could have some trees. I think that would.
Okay, so acoustic screening and boundary treatment. Yeah.
Right.
Could it be even taller than 2 metres?
Malcolm, would you like to talk through the
Could the acoustic screen and height be even taller? Is it would be a problem of sort of 3 metres, so that in terms of the view across the bedroom from ground levels, it wouldn't be as much a problem? Is that something? 3 metres instead of 2, for instance.
Chairman, we can take that away with a suggestion that the applicant consult with the neighbours over the landscape scheme. That just seems to be reasonable given the history that they've just related to. And condition 12 already covers hard and soft landscape, and condition 14 covers the acoustic fencing. So you have all the conditions you need. I think the added element is some neighbourly consultation.
Okay, thank you. Right, Wayne.
You've covered the point on landscaping. This is just a point really for us to approach the school. Just, you know, in the world of energy conservation, those lights should be left on, and the other lights should be on motion sensors. So, well, why not? Saves energy.
That's a cowl.
Sorry? A cowl, yeah, facing downwards, but you know, those things I think we should write to the head. But I'm not sure we can put it as informative or as a condition. Or can we?
We can certainly suggest that informative.
Yeah. If we
Yeah,
can.
be useful. Okay. No. Chris?
Thank you, Tim. Again, I've had help from officers prior to the meeting, but I think just to raise a few things now. The construction management plan, it is a complex development, and as such I appreciate the effort that's been made on phasing to ensure the safety of the pupils there. So that has been covered. A couple of other things. The boundary treatment has already come up in this area, but there's also the question of the boundary treatment by the Moga or Muga there. What I'm concerned is a nice green aspect now. They're both looking from the school towards the boundary and also from Page's Croft, from the croft, looking there. And I'd just like some reassurance that the provision of screening there will not detract from the greenery.
Thank you. The details of the acoustic fencing is subject to a condition, and there's also conditions for tree protection as well. So any barrier there would need to be, because it is quite substantial tree screening there, a few gaps. Any fencing, we need to make sure they don't result in the loss of those trees.
Fine, thank you. And Tim, just one more, and that is on the traffic. Do we have traffic data available, thinking in terms of the additional traffic that will be created by that car park, entering and leaving Rances Lane? I appreciate it's a small number, but is it something that we can consider is not material in this application?
Yeah, I think in terms of, I think it's worth, the traffic flows on Rances Lane. Obviously the council has a model, so we can obviously have a look at forecast years and base years. In terms of the car park itself, I think that almost sets the level of traffic. It's 26 spaces. There is an element, we haven't there is no requirement for them to go into a level of traffic generation because it's not something that's generating a significant number. But in terms of the 26 spaces, you could kind of already consider that, say, half of those movements would already be coming up from the south into the car park on London Road itself. So there is going to be an increase. I think worst case though, it's worth just assuming 26 extra vehicles at the peak hour. Although from speaking to the applicant team, it's understanding that the school itself tends to have staff meetings in the morning, normally about 8:30. Therefore, generally, you've got the majority of the traffic probably already in the school by the time the peak 8 or 9 has actually come about, which is our worst hour peak on our network. But I think worst case would be adding 27 vehicles to that point. Rances Lane itself, where it currently sits, is just north of the South Wokingham SDL. And we're all aware of the South Wokingham Distributor Road. The Eastern Gateway, which is the bridge, the first section from Montague Park over to the south, that's due to be delivered during the early part of 2018. And then hopefully the rest of the road will continue on shortly after that period. That has been identified in the strategic model, which obviously the school wouldn't have obviously run the strategic model on this assessment, but that area of Rances Lane, Waterloo Road, they change quite significantly in terms of flows because you've now got this new east-west kind of, at the moment you get a lot of vehicles coming over East Hampstead Road and cutting through up forward to London Road, whereas in the future there's quite a significant change and this whole area does reduce in traffic quite considerably, to the point that actually it's not an issue that we need to consider, I think, in terms of a 26 space car park.
Fine, thank you.
Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can we be sure that not more than 26 fobs will be issued for the new car park? Because what we don't want is teachers driving along Rances Lane, finding the car parks full, and turning around trying to get back onto London Road, which is very congested at that time of the morning. I don't know whether that can be conditioned.
I was going to say, we did ask that question on the site visit, and we were told it would be one person, one fob, one space. But I don't know how it goes on the planning application.
No, I mean, in terms of during the application, we asked very similar questions. We put the applicant team through quite a test, and we asked various things. Would it be key coded? Would it be barrier? Would it be censored? And I think it came to the point that the fobs would be the best one. You issue a fob, you issue a parking space, and therefore it tends to get controlled in that manner. It's a difficult one, I think, to condition. And obviously, at times, I'm guessing the barrier may break down, but it would be managed obviously by the school. And I guess we get the control through the travel planning element as well to ensure and monitor parking, which is something that we are requiring them to do.
So probably restrict to 26.
That's their, yeah, that's the intention. I mean, I think the car parking they've worked out across the whole site is quite tight, and they've allocated pretty much everything to the front and everything to the rear. So in terms of the parking provision for the site, it's adequate to deliver the scheme that's in front of us, and so it's intended that they've got sufficient to accommodate, so they shouldn't be doubling up on the rear parking.
Thank you.
Malcolm?
It was in fact about every point which you just discussed further. I asked a couple of the people at the school when we visited, and they said they would issue 26 fobs with identity, and staff would know whether theirs would open the gate. There wasn't any point in going in if they didn't have a fob. So they wouldn't drive in and try, they wouldn't even go in.
Any other members wishing to speak? No? Okay. Well, we've heard that the boundary treatment is under conditions already, so that is going to be improved, and it's going to go in as an informative for the lights, so that should be sorted as well. So we have the recommendation on page 100 for approval, with the accompanying conditions and also the amended ones on the members' update. So all those in favour, please show. And not quite unanimous.
No. I don't see any because I didn't go to the site visit. I'm not familiar with the site quite as well as I am with Enbrook School, so I decided I shouldn't vote on it.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Right, so that application is approved. We come to the last application then, which is number 9, which is a 6 Derwent Close, It's a single-storey rear extension, and it's only coming to the planning committee as it's for an officer at Wokingham Borough Council. And the case officer, I believe, is Stephen Thwaites.
Yeah, good evening, I'm Stephen Thwaites. This is an application in Derwent Close in Wokingham, which is off the Lucille Spine Road, and it's for a single-storey rear extension, which has two elements. The principal element from the rear elevation of the house is 3.8 metres, and there's a 3-metre extension, single-storey also, beyond the rear of the existing garage. It's a not quite terrace, it's a semi-detached with number 5 alongside and link detached to number 7 via the garage. The application is before the committee because the applicant is now employed by Wokingham Borough Council. A previous application for a single-storey rear extension which went 3 metres beyond rear walls was approved in November last year. Subsequently, the adjoining dwelling at number 5 applied for a 3.8 metre single-storey rear extension, and the applicant now wishes to increase the depth of the principal element to match that at the adjoining dwelling at number 5. The element behind the garage remains at 3 metres. The only difference there is that it now has a flat roof rather than a pitched roof as the previous one did. These are the plans, not ready here, I'm afraid. It's a pitched roof, single-storey rear extension behind the house and a flat roof extension behind the garage. It's not considered a disproportionate or inappropriate addition to the house. There isn't any significant impact on the immunity of the neighbouring dwellings in terms of overbearing, loss of light or overlooking. And it retains adequate rear amenity space, rear garden in other words. We haven't received any objections, and it's in accordance with Core Strategy Policy CB3 on sustainable development and the Borough Design Guide. The application is recommended for approval.
Right, we have a ward councillor.
Thank you. It's not time since I was in council on here, but that's a very straightforward planning application, which I believe should be approved. As you said, Mr. Chairman, it's only here because the applicant is officer of the council, and I think it does show the transparency of the council that all applications submitted by members or officers or agencies of the council do go to the planning committee, so that everyone can see that they're dealt with fairly. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak? Right. Okay, come to the vote for this last application tonight. All those in favour, please show. That is unanimous. Right. Just before we turn the camera off, I would just like to thank Simon Weeks, who was the previous chairman of this committee. I've been on the committee, I think, since 2004, and no disrespect to the other ones, I do feel he has been the best chairman that the planning committee's had, and I learned a lot from him, and I hope I can sort of carry on in the same way that Simon did. So thank you very much, Simon Weeks.
Yeah.